really freezing. It's horrible.
Millions statewide spending another night in the dark, without electricity, heat, and for a growing number, running water. Flooding homes, only adding to the nightmare. State officials offering little guidance on when any of it will be over.
Every source of power that the state of Texas has been compromised.
Lavelle Traylor and her father, Lewis, have spent the past 4 days inside a cold, dark home, using a single gas stove to stay warm.
I know God is here, but who else? We're supposed to take care of our people.
To the south, in Houston and Galveston, millions being told to boil their water after outages impacted treatment plants.
Going to be in this for a couple of more days.
Emergency officials now fielding hundreds of calls related to carbon monoxide poisoning as people resort to desperate measures to stay warm.
Do not use grills indoors and do not run your car inside your garage.
And with limited water, even fire departments are struggling to battle blazes.
They're running from one call to the next, trying to do the best that they can.
The Lone Star State is alone in having its own power grid, allowing it to bypass federal regulations that would require safeguards for this exact type of cold weather. ERCOT, the nonprofit that operates the grid, admitting they are not able to compete with Mother Nature.
ERCOT saw the storm coming. As the storm blew in, it also did damage to the supply side, and that knocked us enough out of balance that we had to take on these outages, as difficult and damaging as they have been.
The dangerous storms roaring across the country, leaving snow and bitter cold from Arkansas to Illinois. The Northeast now bracing for impact as folks in Texas do their best to survive.
It's really terrifying to think about people dying from these freezing conditions, and we don't want to be one of those statistics.
And this morning, the White House has pledged generators and diesel to Texas hospitals and other critical facilities to hopefully keep them open throughout this weather crisis. And Governor Greg Abbott banning the sale of natural gas across state lines to make sure those in-state have ample supply. Hoda?
All right, Morgan, for a second, let's go back to those viral photos. They just showed just how freezing it is there in Texas, inside the homes. We saw the freezing ceiling fans. We saw the water that couldn't come out of the sink. So does this underscore how the area isn't built for those kinds of conditions?
Absolutely. I mean, you can't stress enough how unprecedented this is in its sheer scope across the entire state. I want to show you this picture of a cactus encased in ice out towards the western part of Texas. That's nearly unheard of. And then look at this. Down in Houston, where it's typically balmy this type of year or close to it, you have a playground looking more like an icicle collection. And then, unfortunately, all too many of these photos have been popping up. People forced to literally camp inside their own homes in a desperate effort to stay warm. I've had friends try to do that exact thing, parked right in front of the fireplace, doing whatever they can until that power can come back on.
Yeah, you hear about people burning their own furniture so they can have more firewood. I mean, they're going to desperate measures. All right, Morgan, thank you so much.
And there have been a lot of emergency calls about carbon monoxide poisonings, people going in their garages to warm up any way they can. So the situation is very dire there, Dylan.
It certainly is, and it's not going to really warm up to like 40s, 50s until we get into the weekend. So it is going to stay brutally cold. We are now watching the storm make its way into the mid-Atlantic and into the Northeast. It is snowing pretty good in Philadelphia, starting to coat the grounds there, and we are going to see that continue for the next several hours. But to add insult to injury, temperatures right now are below freezing across most of Texas, and we have just a little disturbance producing more snow and more ice. But the big event we're tracking for today is bringing that snow through New Jersey, through Maryland, through Delaware. We're seeing that icing, though, in areas like Virginia, where we already have about a half an inch up to 3/4 of an inch of ice coating the ground. A treacherous, dangerous situation there that will likely lead to some power outages as well. As we go later into this afternoon, the snow and the ice kind of fizzle out for a bit, but then it regenerates overnight into Friday morning. So we'll see a secondary round of snow and ice across the mid-Atlantic as we go through Friday morning. So we're looking for mostly ice through Virginia. That's the dangerous stuff. We also have more snow and ice likely down across southwest western Texas, of all places, and additional snowfall through the Northeast. We're looking for about 4 to 6 inches, I'd say, of widespread snow, but it's really the icing that coats the trees, the power lines, and the roadways that will be the biggest concern. But I'd say a widespread 4 to 6 inches, lesser amounts, I'd say, as you go farther south where you see that changeover. And here is the ice we're talking about in Virginia, in Maryland. I mean, a half an inch up to 3/4 to an inch.